Hello. Welcome to the iSolutions iPayments Clover integration functional review. My name is Brandon. I'm a developer for iSolutions, and I'm on the Clover integration team. I'm going to walk you through everything that there is to know about the iSolutions iPayments Clover integration. So we'll start out with a brief interview, then I'll show you what a sale and a refund looks like, talk about some implementation details, tell you a little bit about the Clover data usage, have some additional user workflows and states just so that you're aware of the full breadth of the behavior of our integration, and then a quick conclusion here. So our overview, iSolutions has created iPayments, which is an extension for Business Central that is available for installation to Business Central customers from the Microsoft AppSource marketplace. Business Central is Microsoft's enterprise resource planning system that handles operations across finance, manufacturing, and supply chain. Each of our clients has their own Business Central instance, which has all of their data in their instance. So all data that is saved and stored in Business Central is owned, controlled, and all policy usage and retention data retention policies are managed by the clients. iSolutions does not own or control any of this data that we are going to be discussing, with the exception of one piece of data, which is the merchant ID, which I will talk about. What is iPayments? iPayments from iSolutions is an application that is installed inside of Business Central, which is a full-featured AR and collections suite of tools. We handle credit card and ACH processing, including point-of-sale processing powered by Clover, collections management, and we have a customer portal. The iPayments integration uses two Clover workflows, a sale workflow and a refund workflow. And so I'm going to do a quick demo of what those look like. So everything in Business Central starts with a document. So let's do a quick search for a sales order. This is going to load up any existing sales orders that we already have. So let's take a look and see if we have one that's already open. And yep, there's one there for $192. So let's open up that sales order so that we can request payment from our customer using the Clover device. So just making sure that our totals are correct, and they are. This order is ready for payment. So let's click the checkout button, the payment/refund button to initiate our Clover integration workflow. This screen is just going to make sure that our amount is correct. And in this case, the customer only wants to make a $100 payment on this order. So let's change that amount to $100, click post, and start the Clover workflow here. This is the sale workflow. So the application is connected using the WebSockets SDK to the device, sends the payment information. So we swipe and pay and sign on the device there. And you can see we've handled the challenge, payment challenge here. So this is a duplicate as a result of our development environment. We've opted to print no receipt, and this finalizes our sale within Business Central. You can see we have the amount and the payment details then show up as well. The second workflow that we use is the refund workflow. So in the refund workflow, the user would again identify the payment that was made. In this case, we know that it was made on this order, and when we check out the order, we can see a list of payments that have been applied to that order. We click the ellipsis here. We select void/refund to initiate our Clover workflow. This screen allows us to make sure that the refund and convenience fee amount, if there's any convenience fee, is correct, and also gives us another opportunity to make sure that we are actually refunding the correct transaction. So let's confirm this and initiate the connection with the Clover device. And so we've connected to the Clover device. Now we are performing the refund, and you can see the refund was successful. I opted for no receipt there, and now we have our refund information available for us. Those are the two workflows that we use for our Clover integration. Our Clover integration is intended to be a private web application. This integration requires some specific training, setup, configuration, provisioning of Clover devices, and is not an application that is available for general public to go in and install without contacting us first. So we only allow authorized clients to enable this integration, and this is going to prevent potentially unnecessary support calls to Clover and iSolutions as a result. We have a few permissions that we need to complete this integration. They are employee read, merchant read, and that's largely for the device information, orders read-write, payments read-write, and that is for completing those transactions. In addition, the design of the system is to request an API token from the merchant, and this is done during the setup process when we onboard a new client. They would generate an API token and then put this into the system to be able to establish that connection there. The integration uses two main of the methodologies through Clover. We use the Cloud Pay Display, which is the bulk of the integration, and we also do a few things using the REST API. The payment order read-write is required for the Cloud Pay Display, but on successful payment, here are the elements, the data elements that we receive back from a successful payment from Clover and that we store in the database. We store these so that we can correlate document and payment transaction information back to the Clover ecosystem, as well as do refunds if we need to refund a payment, as I showed you, in the future, and additional information in case we need to do additional research and troubleshooting if there is a problem. If there's an unsuccessful payment, we log why that was unsuccessful and retain that as part of the record. For payment information, of course, the payment and order read-write is required for the Cloud Pay Display to function properly because that's what it does. But we also make an additional REST API call to update the order upon successful payment, and we send in the title and note information with metadata from Business Central so that the users can more easily correlate the transactions within the Clover Merchant dashboard to transactions and documents within Business Central. For refunds, once we get a successful refund, we preserve a little information about that refund for better correlation with that transaction back into the merchant account, and also research and troubleshooting in case we run into some problem. For unsuccessful refunds, we do store a little bit of information about why that refund was unsuccessful, largely for research and troubleshooting. For the merchant permissions, we only need merchant read. We need merchant read for two reasons. The primary reason we need it is to get the list of devices that are associated with that merchant, and we use this to populate drop-down menus so that we can associate devices with users within Business Central and send the command to the correct device on completing a transaction. We also use the merchant ID. This is the only piece of data from Clover that is stored outside of Business Central. This merchant ID, the Clover merchant ID specifically, is stored in the iSolutions licensing system, and that's just to ensure that the merchant has properly been licensed and gone through our onboarding process. In the merchant setup screen, when we onboard Clover integration, onboard a client with Clover integration, you can see that we have the merchant ID, the URL for the REST integration, the application, the remote application ID. Because we are launching in the US and Canada, we do have two remote application IDs and potentially could have additional ones. And then we store the access token. Now the API access token, which is the API token that was generated, is stored in the database encrypted, and that is not available for read by any users or anybody who has access to the database. It's encrypted at rest as well. This helps to ensure that no users of Business Central would be able to make any kind of direct connection to Clover outside of the integration that we have set up. For the device information, again, we do store the hardware serial number, the device ID, and the name and description as well. All transactions that have occurred using the Clover integration appear in our merchant transaction table, so that can easily be searched. And in that table, you can find those data elements, all the data elements that we've saved from a successful transaction are there and available to users. And there's even a field for power users if for some reason our client would need to get in touch with Clover for troubleshooting, research and troubleshooting about some particular transaction. We do have all of the information that Clover would like to be able to, that Clover would ask for to be able to correlate that back into the Clover ecosystem. We have handled additionally several of the additional potential scenarios that could come up during the Clover integration. One of those scenarios is that there's an additional fee that has been charged during the transaction. This represents a fee that's set up in the Clover merchant account, and so the result would be that the amount of the transaction that we get back from Clover is greater than the amount that we actually requested. In this case, we show a message to the user that that was the case, and we log that as a fee, a transaction fee on the in the transaction. We also have the scenario of an underpayment, which is also called a partial payment in Clover. And that is handled just like the demo that I showed you there. The document is not satisfied until all of the amount paid, so all of the amount that we get back from Clover has collected and satisfied the amount of the document. So in the case of an underpayment, if we requested $50 and got less than that, or excuse me, $60 and got less than that, we display a message to the user that that was the case, and we leave the document open to continue collecting payment until that document is satisfied. Furthermore, thanks to the WebSockets connection, we were able to maintain a real-time connection and alert the user whether or not the Clover device is connected. So we always have this connected and disconnected icon there, so at any point in time, the user using Business Central will know whether or not the Clover device is connected and ready for or in the middle of a transaction. We also have some indicators that are showing different processing states, whether the transaction is in progress or we are awaiting some sort of a user interaction on one end or another. We do handle some error states. We handle the device not connected, and this is if the device is completely turned off or completely offline. We show the user some information, some basic troubleshooting information to be able to help handle this themselves, and they should be able to go forward with that. We also have the scenario where a connection is lost in the middle of a transaction. That scenario is handled, again, with some information to show to the user. If a sale has failed, we display information to the user about that. And we also capture some metadata about that, the reason why the sale failed. If the sale is canceled, like on the Clover device, for instance, then we handle that scenario as well. We show the user messaging about that. And if the transaction times out on the Clover device, that scenario is also handled. We let the user know and give them an opportunity to retry. So that concludes the functional review of the iSolutions iPayments Clover integration.